How the heck are ya? I'm Al. Today I've got a time lapse and a voiceover for you. So before we get there, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and in the comments below, are you going to be participating in Inktober or Sculptober? Let me know. Okay, so in Zbrush, I'm using Sculptress Pro with a snake hook brush, and I am just kind of slowly pushing and pulling, grabbing the clay, trying to get that basic body shape. What I'm going for is kind of this little clay creature. As you can see, I masked out a chunk of the arms, and I like to use snake hook when I'm trying to be fast, just to pull out these forms. They look really bad at first, but then I can go in and slowly start to refine the shape. So be it that inflate brush, clay buildup, just whatever I need to get the shape of those arms, legs, fingers. I went over to the right and then used group masked. I can work in that kind of armpit area, or the area of the arm that's closest to the body without sculpting on the body. I'm not worried about topology. One of the big features of Sculptress Pro is just sculpting, right? I can worry about topology later if I need to. But I need to have in mind, every project that I do, I need to know what the end goal is. If this were going to be in a game, I would have a different workflow. And there'd be similarities, but I know that the end result is going to be just a digital sculpt that I might do a paint over on. So topology, I don't care about at this point, but that's the end goal. So I can take that in mind, and I don't need to retopologize. I don't need to keep those things in mind. Same thing with 3D printing, right? I'm not going to 3D print this guy, so I don't have those concerns or those thoughts going through my head right now. One of the features of the face that I always put in first is just that orbital socket, all right, where your eyeballs sit. To me, that's a great landmark, and then I can move on to brows. So inspiration for this creepy creature came from the YouTuber Gouldies or Guldies. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but he's a famous stop-motion YouTuber. Another workflow that some people use, but I find it much slower, is, just using your basic forms and your basic shapes all in different chunks and then eventually fusing those together. And there's definitely a time and a place that I use that approach, or Z-spheres as well. But for speed and fun, honestly, I'll just use snake hook and fix it from there. This whole sculpt took me about 30 minutes, and then I took it a little further. So once again, I used masking, then pulled out those ears with snake hook, kind of shaping them around. I'll fix all the issues that are appearing eventually. I can smooth this. I'm going to use clay buildup. Build up some of those ears and inflate. I could have used backface masking, but I did not. Don't forget that you can hold Option or Alt on the keyboard to carve into your mesh with like the clay buildup tool or lots of other tools. But it's looking good so far. Right now I'm gonna mask the ear, and then I'm gonna turn off the gizmo. That way I can use the transpose line, kind of rotate that ear and pose it. Then I can always fix the deformation that's happening in that bend without issue. As you can see, I've already broke symmetry pretty early on this guy. Symmetry is awesome, and it can save you a lot of time. I think I turned it back on because I forgot to do his fingers, or I changed my mind about him. So you can see this wasn't really planned out. It's, hey, let's do some sculpting. But symmetry is fantastic for speed, but you gotta break it at some point. You really do. Otherwise, it's very static and stale. Now, if this were going to be rigged, I would keep him in a T-pose. I would not pose his ear. It'd be symmetrical the whole way. And then later, I might be able to break symmetry a little bit. Obviously, there's inspiration from Totoro here, just kind of like the body shape and size. But this is meant to be like a creepy little creature, but also cute, all right? So I used the damn standard brush to get his nostrils in there, and also some of those skin folds and creases. So right there, I'm doing these little cuts, but I did them uniformly spaced, and it looked very stagnant. Didn't have a whole lot of life. So I redid that and then spaced them out, like groups of 2s, groups of 3s. And that just gives it a little bit more life. Even that small detail can give it just even more character in your character, right? We want our characters to be gushing with character. I really wanted this to have like a little kid sculpted this in his bedroom with some clay, and I wanted the arms to be sticks, But this is like something a child would make who, and this child doesn't really have any friends, right? Because he's a little weird, definitely looked down upon by his peers. And I'm talking about the kid who made this, so to speak. So the outcast, definitely a little creepy, but still has like lots of love in his heart. He wants a friend, so he's making this little guy. I think this little creature would be cute in a zoo, right? With a pane of glass in between us, but I can't say that I would want this little guy crawling up on my chest in the middle of the night. I think he might try to eat me or something, try to kill me. But still cute from a distance. I think he's just misunderstood, really. Using clay buildup, pull out some of these lumps for some legs and go in here, do the back end a little bit, pretend like something's there. Okay, and now I really wanted to focus on these arms a little bit. They were just too thick. So I think tried deflating. That was a bad idea, I never do that. I'm just gonna smooth out this arm, probably move up the shoulder at this point. Do some masking. I'm gonna pose this arm, once again turning off symmetry eventually. And typically I wouldn't do this. This was like, oh, I want it to pose his arm. Typically I'll work in symmetry, 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 and then at the end I can turn it off and then do the ear and the arm, but I kind of hopped around here. Still, I didn't have much of a plan with this guy. You know, but it was fun just to get up and sculpting and keep my chops up, make this creepy little guy before Halloween. And you'll see like there's smooth parts of this mesh. There's, like you can see, very blocky, right? Low poly look. That's okay because later I actually use Z-Remesher and then projected my details onto a better mesh. I didn't actually record all that, but you'll see it in the finished product. So I'm just pulling out some fingers. Remember, the idea behind this was that this child just grabbed 2 twigs and kind of stuck it in there. And all right, so at this point, I'm happy more or less. I really like the mouth. It just looks definitely something not right in the sense of just like it's creepy. It's got that meatiness around these lips, but there's no real defined form. Definitely a little creepy. These twig-like, skeleton-like arms. So in this next segment, you're gonna see me make a ton of mistakes. I think I just had a big brain fart trying to mask this arm and then rotate. I couldn't use the poly groups that I created because I think I adjusted them or something changed. Anyways, I make mistakes all the time. That's a video in and of itself. I teach to high school students. We teach animation and we dive into sculpting a little bit. But there are some students, some adults that I know, they're really afraid of making mistakes and then letting people know about it. Like specifically in this context, right? I did a time lapse. I edit out some things, like I've got children, so whenever I turn away for 15 minutes, I spare you the still screen and edit that out. But for the most part, I'm gonna try to keep my mistakes in here. You learn a lot from mistakes, and hopefully you can learn from mistakes too. Learning from your mistakes, not being afraid to take risks. Yeah, it's just a super important skill to have. Yeah, put that on your resume. Can screw up well. At this point, right, I'm posing his arm, and then I'm thinking, oh, cool. Maybe this guy's like in the military. And as you can see by the finished product, which I forgot to do a time lapse for, this guy's name is Major Binky, and then I wanted him to have sort of a sidekick, right? A little friend next to him that always went with him. So I was like, oh, well, let's just attach it to him. So then I created this sock-like tail, little sock puppet-like tail, and Major Binky and Sergeant Socko. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please subscribe. I will see you next time.